Indo-Pacific Conference is now the largest conference in the Southern Hemisphere for defence. It is growing because Australia matters, not only the Pacific but also the Indo-Pacific, and it's great that both are now recognised. There are thousands of delegates, hundreds of companies, and people from all around the world are getting together to understand what's happening in the world, but also what are the technologies that are out there. What do not just Australian companies, but particularly our AUKUS partners, what more we can do together and how we can use the best technology. So it is the biggest Southern Hemisphere conference of its type. I couldn't be happier being here supporting Team WA. WA has such an important role to play, not just in Australian defence, but also for our AUKUS partners, and also our other like-minded friends, most of whom are in the Northern Hemisphere and are either Atlantic or Pacific focused, or in the case of the US, both. So we are, as a group of nations, very much underdone in terms of our military forces in the Indian Ocean, but also basing from which to project power out into the Indian Ocean. Now that's clearly what the PLA Navy is doing, and the Russian Navy increasingly with their fleet is spending more and more time in the Indian Ocean, both in terms of submarines and surface vessels, and they're looking for more and more support right across the Indian Ocean rim in terms of basing, sustainment and maintenance. So the West Australia is in a unique opportunity to become the defence hub for our allies in the Indian Ocean. I think there's many West Australian companies, and many of them here, who have a lot to offer Australian defence and also defence, for AUKUS and our other partners across Europe and elsewhere. But I think the issue now is the West Australian government and the federal government need to finalise the plan for Henderson, make it public and make it very clear to industry, not only what might be there in the future, but now make it real and tangible and go into contracts so that companies can grow. AUKUS is particularly important for Western Australia, and I've just come back from the UK and the USA talking to companies and government officials, and there is so much more that AUKUS could be for Australia, and in particular Western Australia, in terms of setting up a military industrial base south of Perth and in fact across Perth. We could have a free trade zone, special economic zone in the West, and be providing a lot more support. So supply chain redundancy, maintenance hubs, sustainment hubs, but also critical minerals and even, missile manufacturing. We could be doing it all there, but again, we need the state government to buy in and to provide, the resources. We need housing and, social infrastructure to go with that expansion, and also a lot more money into Henderson and the Kwinana area. I think it's going to be at least a $40 billion project to get it all done. I think it is, and there's a lot more synergies, I think, than people understand in West Australia yet between defence industry and the mining sector. A lot of the technologies that have been developed for the mining sector are world leading, both on land and in space. So there's a lot more also with the workforce. I think there's a lot more work to be done in Western Australia to really understand how we can reduce our reliance on iron ore, because when we have another iron ore shock, we're not quite ready to transition to really quickly grow other industries. A lot of the trades and professions are interchangeable, but we're not there yet. So we've got a lot more work to do to lift this industry up.